On our third wedding anniversary, my wife, Chloe, transferred the title of our $2 million Lincoln Park condo, the one in the top-rated school district, to her high school sweetheart. For $1. She still thought I was the same pathetic loser who couldn't live without her. I looked at her and calmly slid a folder across the coffee table. I want a divorce. She smirked, so sure of herself, and scrawled her name on the papers, waiting for me to fall to my knees and beg. But she didn't know. The moment her pen left that page, the countdown for her and her entire family had already begun. My phone buzzed. A push notification from Chase Bank. Dear Mr. Ethan Vance, the property associated with your account ending in XXXX was transferred today. Sale price, $1. $1. The only property to my name, my marital home, worth $2 million. Gone. In the living room, my wife, Chloe Miller, was on a FaceTime call with her old flame, Ryan Hayes, laughing so hard she was doubled over. A green clay mask was plastered across her face. Chloe, you're incredible. You'd even take on that spineless coward, Ethan, for me. Chloe feigned annoyance. Oh, please. What do you mean his property? We're married. It's marital property. I'm just disposing of my half. What's the big deal? Nice to know you paid attention in your pre-law classes. Too bad it won't help you. My knuckles turned white as I gripped my phone, but my face remained a mask of calm. 3 years ago, for Chloe, I walked away from my family's legacy, giving up my inheritance and my name just to live a normal life with her. I thought I could trade my entire world for her heart. Instead, for our third anniversary, this was the gift she gave me. Relax, she said, her voice dripping with contempt. Ethan's a total coward. I control his bank accounts. His entire paycheck is direct deposited into my name. I give him a $200 a week allowance. He can't even afford to eat without me. What's he going to do? As soon as the title is officially in my name, I'll kick that loser to the curb, and we can finally be together for real. Ryan's triumphant laughter echoed from the phone speaker. I listened, then slowly rose from the sofa. The movement startled Chloe. When she saw it was me, her expression soured. Do you have to sneak around like that? You trying to give me a heart attack? I ignored her, walked over, and placed a prepared folder on the coffee table. Divorce agreement. The mask on her face nearly cracked. She stared at the words, then let out a shrill, piercing laugh. Ha ha! Ethan, are you insane? You're divorcing me? She looked at me as if I'd just told the funniest joke in the world, pointing a finger right at my nose. You live on an $800 a month allowance, in my house, eating my food. What right do you have to divorce me? You want to go sleep on the street? I looked at her, my eyes as still and calm as a frozen lake. Just sign it. My composure seemed to enrage her. She snatched a pen, and with a few angry strokes, signed her name at the bottom. Then, she threw the agreement in my face. Listen to me, Ethan. Don't play these little games with me. I'll give you 3 days. If you come crawling back and beg me to tear this up, maybe I'll reconsider. Otherwise, pack your bags and get the hell out. She was certain I wouldn't dare. She was certain I couldn't survive without her. I picked the papers up from the floor, glanced at her flamboyant signature, and a faint, almost imperceptible smile touched my lips. I don't need 3 days, I said. As of now, we're even. With that, I turned, walked into the bedroom, and pulled out the suitcase I had packed long ago. Chloe was stunned. She watched my determined retreat, and for the first time, the smug, mocking look on her face began to fracture. Ethan, stop right there. Are you serious? I didn't look back. I opened the door and walked out. Behind me, her furious shriek echoed in the hallway. Fine, get out. I'd love to see how long you last out there, you pathetic loser. Don't come crying back to me. The door slammed shut behind me. It sealed away the woman I had loved for 3 years, and it sealed away my foolish past. Standing in the hallway, I took out my phone and dialed a number I hadn't called in 3 years. The call was answered almost instantly. A weathered, respectful voice came through the line. Sir, I took a deep breath, fighting back the lump in my throat. Sterling, it's over. Chapter 2 the next morning. Chloe was jolted awake by the doorbell. Her head throbbed from a hangover. Annoyed, she yanked the door open to find a FedEx courier. Chloe Miller? Priority overnight for you. Sign here. She impatiently signed the tablet and ripped open the cardboard envelope. A small booklet slid out and fell to the floor. She picked it up. Her pupils shrank. Certificate of divorce. The crisp, official document stung her eyes. How is this possible? They signed the papers yesterday. How could the divorce be finalized today? Frantic, she grabbed her phone and dialed my number. We're sorry. The number you have dialed has been disconnected. The cold, robotic voice sent a chill down her spine. He was serious? He actually dared to do it? A strange sense of panic seized her heart. But that panic was quickly replaced by a profound sense of humiliation. That loser actually dared to dump me first? She called Ryan, her voice cracking. Ryan, that pathetic loser Ethan. He actually divorced me. Ryan paused for a second, then burst out laughing. Chloe, isn't that a good thing? He walked out on his own. Saves us the trouble of kicking him out. You should be popping champagne. But who does he think he is? Chloe screamed, indignant. He's a good-for-nothing coward. How could he do this to me? Easy baby, Ryan soothed. He's a loser. Not worth getting upset over. This is just his last pathetic attempt to save face. I bet he won't last 3 days out there before he comes crawling back, begging for you to take him back. When he does, you can humiliate him any way you want. Ryan's words were a balm to Chloe's frayed nerves. Yes, that has to be it. Without her, Ethan couldn't even survive. He was just putting on a brave face. With that thought, Chloe's mood lifted. She tossed the divorce certificate into a drawer, took out her phone, and posted a picture of the new property deed on her Instagram. The caption read, "New beginnings, new life. Thank you, my love." Ryan liked it instantly. The comment section filled with congratulations and expressions of envy. Reading them, Chloe's vanity was deeply satisfied. She could already picture me, homeless and destitute, begging for her forgiveness like a stray dog. She opened her iMessage and texted her mother. Mom, I divorced Ethan. Her mother, Susan Miller, called immediately. Chloe, what are you doing? If you divorce Ethan, what happens to our partnership with Apex Corporation? Have you forgotten how he got us that $30 million contract with a single phone call? Chloe scoffed. Mom, you can't possibly still believe that story? That was 3 years ago, a total fluke. Look at him now. Has he done anything for the past 3 years besides housework? If he was so capable, would he let me walk all over him every day? Besides, she continued, Ryan's back now. His dad is a deputy director at the city planning department. He'll be much more useful to our family in the long run. Susan was silent on the other end. Clearly, a future son-in-law with connections at City Hall was worth more than a useless ex who got lucky once. Well, what about the condo? It was in Ethan's name. Susan was still worried. Chloe laughed, full of herself. Mom, it's me. When have I ever not taken care of business? The condo is already mine. After hanging up, Chloe felt fantastic. She decided she and Ryan would have a big celebration tonight. A celebration of her new life, free from that loser. She was completely oblivious. An invisible net was already closing in around her and the family she was so proud of. Chapter 3 night fell over Chicago. At La Toile, the city's most exclusive French restaurant, Chloe and Ryan sat across from each other. Expensive wine and perfectly cooked steaks graced the table. The atmosphere was intimate and celebratory. To us, Chloe, and to our wonderful future, Ryan said, raising his glass, his eyes burning with desire. Cheers! Chloe's smile was radiant as she clinked her glass against his. Seriously, I still don't get it. What did you ever see in a loser like Ethan? Ryan asked after a sip of wine, feigning curiosity. A flicker of unease crossed Chloe's face before being replaced by disdain. Don't even talk about him. I must have been blind. My parents said he was honest and would take care of me. And what was he? A total bore. No romance, no passion. It was like being married to a block of wood. And the best part, Chloe said, laughing so hard she had to hold her stomach. He tried to feed me this line about how his family was some old money dynasty back in New York, and he gave up his inheritance for me. Can you believe that? If he's the heir to a fortune, then I'm the Queen of England. Ryan roared with laughter, his gaze possessive. See, I'm the only one who really gets you, Chloe. You were born to live a life of luxury, not to be stuck in that tiny condo with a worthless bum. By the way, Ryan said, changing the subject, I'll get the locks changed tomorrow, just in case that deadbeat gets any ideas about coming back. Perfect, Chloe agreed, a thrill of vindictive pleasure running through her. She couldn't wait to see the look of despair on my face when I found out I couldn't even get into my own home. As they were talking, Chloe's phone rang. It was her mother, Susan. Chloe answered with a hint of annoyance. "Mom, what is it now?" Susan's voice was trembling, filled with a terror Chloe had never heard before. "Chloe, it's a disaster. A complete disaster. The family. We're ruined. Just now, every single one of our business partners terminated their contracts. All at once. And the bank just called demanding immediate repayment of all our loans. $30 million. Where are we going to get $30 million? Susan's voice was a frantic, broken wail. Chloe's mind went blank. A loud buzzing filled her ears. What? How could that happen? Mom, are you sure? There must be a mistake. How could I be mistaken? We've already received the termination letters from their lawyers. They said our family crossed someone we should have never crossed. Chloe, tell me the truth. Besides Ethan, who else did you piss off? In Susan's mind, there was no way that Ethan, could ever be the powerful figure they had supposedly crossed. Chloe's hand, holding the phone, was shaking uncontrollably. I didn't do anything. Her eyes darted to Ryan, her last hope. Ryan, isn't your dad a director at City Planning? Can you please ask him what's going on? Ryan was just as stunned by the sudden turn of events. He frowned, trying to reassure her. Chloe, calm down. It's probably just some market fluctuation. I'll call my dad in a bit and ask. It's not the end of the world. I'm here. Hearing Ryan's words, Chloe's panic subsided slightly. That's right. Ryan is here. His family had connections. They could help the Millers weather this storm. As for that loser, Ethan, this couldn't possibly be his doing. He couldn't even support himself. How could he possibly take down her entire family? It had to be a coincidence. It just had to be. Chapter 4. Across town, a black Rolls-Royce Phantom glided silently through the night. Inside, I reclined against the soft leather seats, my eyes closed. Driving was Sterling, my family's majordomo. He had been by my father's side since before I was born, and had watched me grow up. Sir, it's all been handled. Sterling's voice came through the intercom, calm and steady. All of the Miller family's business partners have terminated their contracts. We have also applied pressure on the banks. If the Millers cannot repay their $300 million debt within 3 days, they'll be forced into bankruptcy and liquidation. I slowly opened my eyes, the city lights reflecting in my pupils. 300 million, not 30? I asked. That is correct, sir. Over the past 3 years, with your anonymous support, the Miller family's company assets grew tenfold. Their total liabilities are 300 million. Sterling's tone was matter-of-fact, as if he were discussing the weather. I fell silent. I had only propped up their business so Chloe could live comfortably, hoping her family might see me in a better light. I never imagined it would become the very instrument of their destruction. The irony. And the man, Ryan Hayes? I asked. His father, Robert Hayes, a deputy director at the city planning department, was just taken into custody by the FBI for questioning regarding corruption and bribery. If all goes as expected, he will spend the rest of his life in prison. Sterling paused, then added, his personal assets have also been frozen as part of the investigation. Well done, Sterling, I said quietly. The car was silent for a long moment. Finally, Sterling sighed. Sir, you have suffered these past 3 years. I shook my head, watching the streetlights streak past the window. It wasn't suffering. It was just a 3-year-long dream. And now I'm awake. I took out my phone and switched it on. Instantly, it was flooded with hundreds of missed calls and messages. The vast majority were from Chloe. They started with curses, then shifted to questions, and finally to panicked, desperate pleas. I deleted them all, one by one, without a change in expression, then blocked her number. From now on, we were strangers. Sterling, take me to the Pinnacle Tower. Yes, sir. The Rolls-Royce made a smooth turn, merging into the traffic heading toward the highest point in the city. My real home was waiting. For Chloe and Ryan, the party was over, and the gates of hell had just swung open for them. The next day, Ryan was awakened by a sharp, insistent knocking. He opened the door to his department director, flanked by 2 security guards. The same director who had been praising him just yesterday now wore a look of pure ice. Ryan, you're fired, the director said coldly, flicking a termination letter at his chest. Ryan was utterly bewildered. What? Why? I was the top performer last quarter. You said you were promoting me to associate director. The director sneered, looking at him like he was something scraped off the bottom of a shoe. Why? Don't you know? Don't you know who you've crossed? Let me tell you something. Our CEO got a call. The person on the other end said one sentence. Get rid of Ryan Hayes, or your company will cease to exist by tomorrow. Ryan, who in God's name did you piss off? The director's voice was shaking with residual fear. Ryan's mind was reeling. He racked his brain, but couldn't think of anyone he could have possibly offended so grievously. Unless an impossible figure flickered in his mind. No, it can't be. It could never be that worthless loser, Ethan. Before he could argue, the two security guards grabbed him by the arms. Get all of his personal belongings and throw them out, the director ordered. Just like that, Ryan was dragged out of the office building like a sack of garbage. His possessions were dumped in a cardboard box on the sidewalk. Former colleagues pointed and whispered, their eyes filled with scorn and a touch of schadenfreude. As Ryan sat shell-shocked on the curb, his phone rang. It was Chloe. Ryan, you have to do something. My dad's company is about to go under. The bank has sent people to the house. Her voice was choked with desperation. Ryan could barely save himself, let alone her. He yelled into the phone, his frustration boiling over. What can I do? I just got fired, for Christ's sake. On the other end of the line, Chloe went silent, completely stunned. And that was just the beginning. Later, when she tried to buy a new handbag at Nordstrom, the card reader beeped. Insufficient funds. She tried another card, and another. The same result. She called the bank, and a customer service representative informed her in a monotone voice. Ms. Miller, all of your credit and debit cards have been frozen by federal authorities as part of an ongoing investigation into illegal money laundering. Chloe stood there in the bustling department store, phone in hand, the world spinning around her. Everything she had built her identity on, her family's status, her looks, her connections, had crumbled to dust in less than 48 hours. She finally understood. This was no coincidence. An invisible hand was pulling the strings. And the owner of that hand, the image of Ethan, the man she had despised, the man she thought she could trample on at will, appeared in her mind with terrifying clarity. A bone-deep chill washed over her entire body. At the Miller family's North Shore mansion, Susan Miller was slumped on the floor, her eyes vacant. Her husband, David, had aged a decade overnight, his hair visibly grayer, a stress sore forming at the corner of his mouth. The bank's collection agents had just left, leaving behind a mess and an ultimatum. If they couldn't produce $300 million in 3 days, all of their assets, including the mansion, would be seized and auctioned by the court. It's over. It's all over, David mumbled, his gaze empty. He had spent the entire day and night on the phone, calling in every favor he had. But his old friends, the ones who were always so eager to do business, now avoided him like the plague. One even warned him cryptically, David, just let it go. You've angered a titan, someone none of us can afford to cross. A titan? David couldn't understand. He had been a diligent, careful businessman his whole life. When had he ever crossed a titan? Just then, a disheveled Chloe walked in. Seeing the state of her home, she finally broke, collapsing to her knees on the marble floor. Damn, Mom, it was me. It's all my fault. David's head snapped up, his bloodshot eyes locking onto her. Tell me, who did you cross? It was Ethan. Chloe's voice was barely a whisper. What? David and Susan said in unison. Impossible. Susan shrieked. That worthless loser? How could he have this kind of power? It's true. Chloe sobbed, recounting everything, from Ethan's calm divorce proposal to the systematic destruction of her and Ryan's lives. After listening, David staggered back and fell onto the sofa. He wasn't a fool. When all the evidence pointed to one person, no matter how unbelievable, it had to be the truth. He remembered 3 years ago when his company was on the brink of collapse, and a single phone call had secured the partnership with Apex Corporation. He had asked Ethan about it, and Ethan had simply said he'd asked a friend for a favor. He believed him then. Thinking back, that friend was probably Ethan himself. He had hidden his true identity for 3 whole years. He had been housing a dragon in his home, and his family had treated that dragon like a worm, mocking and trampling it at every turn. You foolish, destructive girl. David shot up and slapped Chloe hard across the face. You've ruined this entire family. The reality of the situation finally hit Susan. She lunged at Chloe, hitting and screaming. I told you. I told you not to push him too far. Not to be so cruel. But you wouldn't listen. And now look, you've dragged us all down into the abyss with you. Chloe's hair was a mess, and blood trickled from the corner of her mouth, but she didn't dare cry out. Her heart was filled with nothing but crippling regret and terror. So, he was telling the truth. He really was the heir to a great fortune. He really did give it all up for me. And she had taken that priceless gift, thrown it to the ground, and stomped on it with all her might. Suddenly, an idea seemed to strike David. He grabbed Chloe's shoulders, a final, desperate glimmer of hope in his eyes. Chloe, tomorrow night, is the annual Skyline charity auction. Someone of his stature. He has to be there. You will go find him. You will beg him. I don't care if you have to get on your hands and knees and kiss the ground he walks on. You will make him forgive us. Whether the Miller family survives this. It's all on you now. Chapter 7, the Skyline Charity Auction, the premier high society event of the year. It was held on a lavish super yacht cruising Lake Michigan, attended by the city's entire A-list. The air was thick with perfume and the clinking of champagne glasses. David had cashed in the very last of his social capital to get Chloe a ticket. She wore a rented evening gown, and her makeup was flawless, but it couldn't hide the deep-seated fear and exhaustion in her eyes. She moved through the crowd like a ghost, desperately searching for that familiar, yet now terrifyingly alien, figure. Finally, she saw him. He was in the main VIP lounge, the most prominent spot on the deck, laughing and talking with a silver-haired, distinguished-looking man. Chloe recognized the older man. It was Arthur Croft, the wealthiest man in Chicago. And at that moment, this legendary tycoon, a man whose whims could shape the city's economy, was slightly bowed, personally pouring a drink for Ethan, his expression a mixture of deference and respect. Ethan, meanwhile, was casually leaning back against the velvet sofa, his posture relaxed, as if this was all perfectly normal. Boom! A bomb went off in Chloe's head. The scene before her obliterated her last shred of denial. Liar, loser, coward. The label she had plastered all over him now seemed like a sick joke. She remembered the 3 years he had silently handled all the chores. She remembered how he had quietly absorbed her tantrums and verbal abuse. She remembered the deep, unwavering love and patience in his eyes when he looked at her. It wasn't weakness. It was a God deigning to walk amongst mortals. And she, a clueless mortal, had foolishly believed she held a god's leash. Tears streamed down her face, ruining her carefully applied mascara. She had to get to him. She had to tell him she was wrong. She had to beg him for another chance. But as she took a single step forward, 2 security guards in black suits blocked her path. Ma'am, please, this is a private area. Their eyes were cold, as if they were looking at a piece of trash. No matter how much Chloe cried or pleaded, they wouldn't let her pass. They were only 50 feet apart, but it felt like a chasm had opened between them. A chasm she could never hope to cross. As if sensing the commotion, Ethan's gaze drifted in her direction. When his eyes met hers, her heart stopped. There was no anger in his expression, no muckety, no emotion at all. There was only the cold, hard indifference of a stranger. It was the look you give someone you pass on the street and will never think of again. In that moment, Chloe knew she had lost him, utterly and completely. Chapter 8, the auction began. One priceless item after another was presented, sparking bidding wars among the city's elite. Chloe was an empty shell, escorted by security to a small chair in the furthest, darkest corner of the deck. She watched the glittering spectacle, watched Ethan in the front row, and felt like she had been cast into another dimension. Soon, the final item of the night was wheeled out. Ladies and gentlemen, the auctioneer boomed. Our final item tonight is the exclusive development rights for the prime waterfront district in the South Loop. Bidding will start at $50 million. Chloe knew about this project. It was the one her father, David, had been willing to bet everything on. Winning this contract would not only save the Miller family from ruin, but elevate them into the city's upper echelon. Even now, cornered and desperate, David was harboring a sliver of hope that he could leverage old connections for a last-minute loan to make a bid. He was sitting in another corner not far from her, staring at the stage, his forehead beaded with sweat. 55 million. 60. I bid 70 million. The price skyrocketed. David's hands were trembling. He was completely out of his league. Just as the bidding reached 100 million and began to slow, a calm voice cut through the air. Without even turning his head, Ethan nonchalantly raised his paddle. 200 million. The entire deck fell silent. A collective gasp went through the crowd as every head turned toward him. Jumping from 100 million to 200 million. The sheer financial power, the audacity, was staggering. The auctioneer's voice cracked with excitement. 200 million. Mr. Vance bids 200 million. Do I hear any other bids? 200 million going once. 200 million going twice. No one else dared to bid. Everyone understood that competing with him was financial suicide. Sold for $200 million. Congratulations to Mr. Vance on acquiring the South Loop waterfront project. As thunderous applause erupted, I stood up, but I didn't walk toward the signing table. Instead, I walked directly onto the main stage and took the microphone from the auctioneer. Every eye was on me. Chloe's and David's hearts were in their throats. I surveyed the crowd, my gaze finally settling on David Miller's pale, sweat-drenched face. A cold, sharp smile formed on my lips. Ladies and gentlemen, I am hereby announcing that the South Loop waterfront project is officially and indefinitely canceled. I didn't buy to develop it. I didn't buy to make money. I paused, letting the words hang in the air before delivering the final blow. I bought it simply so that certain people could never have it. Because I can. With that, I set the microphone down on the podium and walked off the stage, leaving a stunned, silent crowd in my wake. Splat. David Miller coughed, a spray of blood erupting from his mouth as he collapsed backward in his chair. Chloe screamed in despair and rushed toward him. The entire event descended into chaos. I didn't even look back. Mercy to an enemy is cruelty to yourself. That was a lesson Chloe had taught me well. Chapter 9. After that night, the Miller family was finished. David Miller had a stroke that left him partially paralyzed, confined to a hospital bed with medical bills piling up into the stratosphere. Susan sold all her jewelry and begged for loans, but every door was slammed in her face. And Chloe became the laughingstock of Chicago's high society. The gold digger who sold a $2 million condo for $1 and drove away a billionaire became a cautionary tale of greed and stupidity. Her former friends ghosted her. Everywhere she went, she could feel the whispers and stares at her back. Ryan Hayes' fate was even worse. His father was sentenced to life in prison, and all their family assets were seized. Deep in gambling debt, Ryan had his leg broken by loan sharks. He was last seen scrounging for food in dumpsters. One day, he saw me in an alley behind a restaurant. I was about to get into my car, as Sterling held the door open for me. The sight of me sent him into a blind rage. Ethan, Ryan, like a rabid dog, limped towards me as fast as he could. It was you. You did this to me. I'm going to kill you. He didn't get within 10 feet before two of my bodyguards materialized from the shadows and slammed him to the pavement. He struggled, his face contorted in a mask of pure hatred. You snake. You pathetic, manipulative snake. You played weak for 3 years just to watch us all burn. I looked down at him, my expression devoid of any warmth. I was never watching you, because in my world, you weren't even significant enough to be a joke. Without another glance, I got into the car. The door closed, sealing out his venomous curses. The Rolls-Royce pulled away smoothly. In the rearview mirror, Ryan's figure shrank until he was nothing more than a speck in the distance. Some people, the moment they decide to become your enemy, are erased from your world entirely. Chapter 10. The Miller family's mansion was officially seized by the bank, the doors secured with chains and a notice of foreclosure. Susan and Chloe were thrown out, standing pathetically on the curb with a few suitcases. The neighbors peeked through their curtains, whispering, "Look, that's them. They crossed the wrong person, and now it's karma. Serves them right." I heard the daughter kicked her billionaire husband to the curb for some nobody. What an idiot. The gossip made Susan's face turn purple with rage and shame. Throwing away her last shred of dignity, She grabbed Chloe and ran towards the tallest building in the city skyline, the global headquarters of the Vance Corporation. They were stopped by security at the entrance. "I'm sorry, you can't enter without an appointment." Susan dropped to her knees on the granite plaza and began to wail. Ethan, my boy, please come out and see your mother." I was wrong. We were all wrong. "Please, I'm begging you, have mercy on us. Give us a chance to survive." She cried and slammed her forehead against the ground, again and again, until it was bruised and bleeding. Chloe knelt beside her, weeping silently, a portrait of pitiful regret. The scene quickly drew a crowd of onlookers and their smartphones. Sterling saw the commotion on the security monitors and called up to my office for instructions. I watched the screen, saw the woman who had once ordered me around now groveling in the dirt, and felt nothing. "Let them kneel," I said calmly. "When they get tired of their own performance, they'll leave." Susan and Chloe knelt from morning until evening. Reporters from every local news station arrived, cameras flashing, broadcasting their humiliation across the city. The Miller family scandal had found a new, more pathetic chapter. Late that night, Susan finally collapsed from exhaustion. A sobbing Chloe had to call an ambulance to take her away. Through it all, I never show my face. It wasn't about being cruel. It was about the fact that when trust is shattered so completely, all that remains is cold, dead ash. You can't put a broken mirror back together, and a broken heart is even more impossible. Chapter 11. A week later, I was attending a business gala. In the underground parking garage, a figure stepped out and blocked my path. It was Chloe. She had lost a significant amount of weight. Her face was pale, and the arrogance that once defined her was gone, replaced by a desperate, pleading humility. She was wearing a faded, worn-out dress that stood in stark contrast to my bespoke, six-figure suit. "Ethan," her voice was raw and hoarse. Can we talk?" I looked at her as if she were a complete stranger. "We have nothing to talk about." I moved to walk around her. "I'm begging you." She lunged forward and wrapped her arms around my waist from behind, pressing her body against mine. "Ethan, I was wrong. I know I was wrong. Please forgive me. Let's get back together. I swear, I'll be a good wife from now on. I'll do anything you say. I'll be your servant. Anything." She was sobbing uncontrollably, her body trembling against my back. I could feel her chest pressed against me, could smell the faint scent of cheap perfume. I frowned, and then, slowly and deliberately, I pried her fingers from my waist one by one. I turned to face her. "Chloe." It was the first time I'd said her name since the divorce. A flicker of hope ignited in her eyes. "Do you know what I find most disgusting about you?" I looked straight into her eyes, my voice cold and precise. "It's not your betrayal. It's not your stupidity. It's that even now, you still think you can use your body, use your tears, to get what you want. You never understood what I loved about you in the first place." My words were a scalpel, slicing deep in her heart. The color drained from her face. The tiny flame of hope was extinguished. Just then, a Maserati pulled up beside us. A stunning woman in a vibrant red dress stepped out. It was Sophia Croft, Arthur Croft's granddaughter and my new business partner. Sophia walked to my side, looped her arm through mine, and glanced curiously at Chloe. "Ethan, who's this?" I smiled, my voice softening as I looked at Sophia. "No one important. Come on, let's not keep everyone waiting." "Okay." With my arm around Sophia, I walked right past Chloe, not giving her a second look. Behind me, I heard a heart-wrenching sob. It was the sound of infinite regret, of absolute and final despair. Chapter 12. 6 months later, I was on the cover of Forbes Asia. The headline read, "The Dragon Returns. The Secret Exile and Triumphant Rise of Billion-Dollar Heir Ethan Vance." In the photo, I was in a tailored suit, standing beside a radiant Sophia Croft. Matching diamond rings adorned our left hands. The capital I had leveraged, a birthright purchased with my trampled dignity and betrayed love, was used to establish a major charitable foundation dedicated to supporting victims of domestic abuse and marital betrayal. My story became known to many. Some called me ruthless. Others praised my resolve. None of it mattered to me. One afternoon, I was waiting for someone in a small diner. The TV in the corner was playing the local news. Police today arrested the ringleader of a local extortion racket, Ryan H., whose crew has been terrorizing small business owners. The camera zoomed in on a familiar face. It was Ryan Hayes in handcuffs, being pushed into a police car. His eyes were dull and lifeless, filled with dread. The news segment ended with an interview at a nearby restaurant. The camera panned across the diner, and for a second, it focused on a waitress in a stained uniform. Her face was worn, her figure slumped with exhaustion as she mopped the floor. It was Chloe. On the TV screen above her, a replay of my press conference appeared. She looked up, and the mop clattered from her hands. She stared blankly at the image of me on the screen and at the blissfully happy Sophia by my side. A moment later, she crumpled to the floor, burying her face in her hands, her shoulders shaking with quiet, agonizing sobs. That sound, coming through the television speakers, reached my ears, but it no longer stirred a single ripple in my heart. I calmly finished my coffee, stood up, and walked out of the diner. Outside, the sun was shining. Sophia was waiting across the street in her car. She honked and gave me a brilliant smile. I opened the door and got in. Let the past be the past. Today was the first day of the rest of my life. As for the people who hurt me, their regret and their pain would be the soundtrack to the rest of their miserable lives. And it had absolutely nothing to do with me.